Good morning, everybody. Uneducated economist here. So I'm back in the Toyota today. A lot of you were asking if I sold a Toyota. I will never sell this car. I paid $500 for it a couple of years ago. It gets me back and forth to work. It runs great, gets good gas mileage, does everything I needed to do. It's not much to look at, but I love this car. So no, I will never get rid of the Toyota. And I got the dice hanging for you because I know how much you guys love the dice and you need to do your numerology every day off of the numbers. So got the dice hanging for you. Thought I'd talk a little bit about the housing market in this Wall Street article that came out. I will leave a link down in the description for you guys. Pretty interesting article when you get to thinking about the completion of homes. And this is something that I said was going to be a logistical nightmare. I said it months ago. And really, I kind of centered it around vinyl windows just because it was like a single component that kind of reminded me a lot of like the chip shortage, like the semiconductor chip shortage, and how those little computer chips, such an insignificant little item, can keep thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment from being able to be sold, just from one small, what seems to be insignificant part. Well, something very similar was like taking place inside of the new construction market when it came to vinyl windows, because vinyl windows are one of those items that you really cannot go any further if you do not have them. Like, you can't really do the siding, you can't do interior work. Without these vinyl windows, you're really at a stalled position on the house. So if the vinyl window issue kept the housing, like, it was just one part, because like if you go and look at building materials across the board, there was issues as far as getting siding, getting windows, roofing. There was like all kinds of issues getting trusses when it came to framing houses. Lumber had an issue within itself. There was a lot of stuff. I just kind of focused it in on vinyl windows just because it was an easy component to watch, and the vinyl window lead time went out to like 3 months. Well, that is now starting to tick back closer to a more reasonable timeline. Now, I think the last time I checked, it was somewhere around 6 weeks to 2 months out, which is much better than 3 months, but it's still like I remember ordering windows and having them in 10 days. So, yeah, the vinyl window thing is still a logistical issue, but it's getting better. Now, when we reflect this back into the housing market in general, just the completion of homes has become very difficult. If you cannot get these new homes onto the market, that is going to keep the inventory levels depressed. Now, at the same time as this has taken place, we have the interest rates on mortgages beginning to go up a little. And this is getting people nervous. Like, it's not just going up a little, I mean, it's starting to move, and people are noticing it, that the payment that they would be making on a home is going to become more burdensome as time goes on. So now they are moving into wanting to make the purchase of a home as soon as possible before they lose that interest rate, that good interest rate, as they continue to go up. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at this on the opposite side, saying, well, I'm in a much better cash position. I'm not so much worried about the loan part of things. I would rather get a good deal on a house. And that's really where a lot of people are thinking that the interest rates rising are going to cause the home prices to come down. However, if you go and you look at the amount of sales of newly constructed homes, you're going to, or new construction homes in construction, not completed, but in construction, you're going to see that the amount of homes that are selling there is starting to move up, and moving up very quickly. Now, this is something to look at, because not only is the amount of homes for sale low, but the new inventory that's coming in from this new construction is getting sold off. Kind of makes me think about what was taking place in China, because in China there was people who were buying a home for years before it ever went into construction. And this is starting to take place here in the United States. It's moving into the in stage process, but pretty soon it's going to be in, and if you go and look, it's already starting to move up, going to be in the not yet started. And then that's going to be where more homes start to be sold. So by the time they even make it to market, they have already been sold and people are going to be moving into them. And you could find that it may even come to a point, like, if it gets so depleted as far as the inventory and the demand for houses continues to rise, which it very well could do, which is scary and to think about. But you could find a point in the future where people are buying homes from other people that have not yet started yet. Like they have a contract that they have been paying on to have a home started in the future at some point, and then they'll be able to sell that contract. That's kind of a scary thing to think about, because it's like something that doesn't even exist yet. Have no idea on if it's even going to come true. And this is something that Evergrande had done. Like there was people who were anticipating Evergrande building them a home, had been paying Evergrande to start a home at some point in the future, and now Evergrande is going into default saying, I don't know if we can actually do anything with your home. Now what do you do? Like, how do you even get your money back out of something like that? Now that's like if some to be in a position like that would be like ultra scary. I mean, because then you don't even have anything to go and fight for. You could at least say is it's like, hey man, they got this house started. I mean, you know, that's mine, whatever stage it's in. But if it doesn't even exist yet, then you have nothing to go back on except for a promise and hopefully get some sort of recuperation of the money that you have put into it. So this is kind of some of the things that I see kind of going forward is that we are going to see the logistics get easier as time goes on. Like we are going to see those vinyl window lead times come much closer. That's the one thing that I'm focusing in on. There is still a lot of inventory, low inventory levels of like siding and trim, and you know, framing lumber sometimes is difficult to find. It's still logistically you know, a nightmare to try and get the materials in. And then on top of that, the labor issues on top of, you know, of all the other inflationary aspects that are going into building a new home. We are probably going to see the prices stay elevated just because of that issue of not only being sold before they make it to completion, but then the idea that they cost so much to even build right now. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing taking place. With all that being said, at some point here in the future, I see an economic slowdown taking place. And when we start to see the economic slowdown happen and people are no longer eager to buy a home, we could probably see this overvalued asset of house prices dramatically come down. Now, I don't see that happening yet, but the capability or the possibilities of that happening are so elevated right now that, you know, because the prices have moved up so dramatically, it just gives so much room for it to come down. Now, I'm going to leave another link down in the description for you guys, and it's talking about how they are trying to free up the supply chain. And this is something that I had talked about months ago, saying that, you know, at some point they are going to start easing the restrictions. They are going to start allowing the transportation of goods and services to happen in a more freer manner, whether it's the lifting of mandates or the vaccination rules or, you know, regulations that they have in place. They're going to start using some of these deregulations or, you know, relieving of mandates, the lifting of mandates to try and expedite some of the rebuilding of the supply chain. And I knew this was going to happen. Like I said, as soon as the mandates are over, then you're going to start seeing the supplies start flowing through the system again. You're going to start seeing the prices start to come down or at least stabilize. When you start to see that happen, they're going to point at the Federal Reserve and say, look, it was the lifting of their interest rates that is doing this, right? That's, you know, putting a cap on these prices. But really it's going to be more about the deregulation, the lifting of mandates, the freeing up of the supply chain. And then in that second article, one other thing I wanted to, sorry guys, I just babble on, don't I? Okay. Down at the end of that article, something very interesting I found is that they were talking about the rebuilding of the supply chain, like to the interior, like the distribution network. And they were saying how they have to rebuild this to make it more robust to weather and climate change that they know is coming. You know, it's like, how do they know that weather conditions is going to be that disruptive to the supply chain that they need to conduct issues now? Like they need to start taking care of the issue now. It's like it's almost ready to be used as an excuse to make it happen. And I mean, I guess, like, you know, a lot of it kind of makes sense. Like if you think about the flooding that took place up in British Columbia a few months back, that knocked out a bunch of the rails and highway systems, and, you know, really put a huge damper on the amount of lumber that was coming out of that area. It makes a lot of sense that weather could create a supply chain breakdown issue, considering what took place up there. But to imagine that on such a scale that you need to rebuild the entire supply chain to be more robust to weather conditions that you know is going to be coming seems more like a premeditated excuse to me. Okay, uneducated economist, you guys let me know.